Welcome to the BCW Member Spotlight podcast. The BCW is the county's largest business membership organization with nearly 1,100 current members. It is our mission to work for the profitability of our members and the prosperity of the Westchester business community. I am Linda Tyler, Vice President of Membership and Programs, and your host today. I would like to welcome our guest, Nelson Soracco, President and CEO of Century Protective Services. Nelson founded Century Protective Services in 1994 after an illustrious 20-year career with Sotheby's Holdings Incorporated as Director of Corporate Security. Mr. Soracco is a board-certified protection professional and licensed private investigator. With this expertise and experience, he has been able to create and develop CPS into one of the area's premier security firms. Good morning and welcome, Nelson.
Good morning, Linda. It's always a pleasure to be here with you at the BCW.
I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Me too.
Tell me about how you became involved in the security business and what drew you to this industry and what you've done to create such an incredibly successful company.
Well, I have a number of family members in the law enforcement field, Jersey State Police, New York State Police, NYPD, and I was thinking of that as a career for myself and started taking the applications and tests. And I went to an event at Sotheby's, and I met the gallery director, a gentleman by the name of Alfred Bristol, and we got into a conversation. He really liked me, and he called me not so long after and introduced me to John Marion, the chairman, and they made me an offer I couldn't refuse, to quote a famous line. And I started there as the inventory and warehouse manager and left as the director of security. And in the 80s and 90s, the company was bought by Alfred Taubman, who took it globally. So I spent a lot of time on airplanes and did a lot of high-profile events, the Jewels of Duchess of Windsor, the Andy Warhol collection, Elton John, and the most significant one that people would know would be the Jackie Onassis estate. That was a worldwide event. People came from all over to attend that, and that toured the country as well as some places in Europe. And when I was leaving, when I was leaving Sotheby's, I started doing some consulting, and my first client was Nick Bonacani from the Miami Dolphins. He created a foundation to cure paralysis called the Miami Project, as his son was injured in a college football incident. And that was a $1,000 a plate in New York at the Waldorf Astoria, where they would honor sports legends like Muhammad Ali, Willie Mays, Mickey Mantle, and so on and so forth. The list is just too long, and met a lot of very interesting people, and it was great working with Nick and his team. And from there, Dottie Eskenazi, who was the head of Event Associates, introduced me to some people, and my first client actually was right here in Westchester, Kawasaki in Yonkers. And we've been them for it's almost 23 years.
I love stories like this where it's just almost serendipitous. You meet somebody, you have a connection, they give you an opportunity, you were really wise and smart, and you took advantage of that opportunity and grew something really incredible. Tell us a little bit about what the number one risk the average company should be aware of, just day-to-day risk, and what crime prevention techniques every business leader should know. I mean, this is definitely your wheelhouse. So tell us a little bit about what people should be thinking about to protect their business.
Well, what we do is we recommend that when we look at an opportunity with a business, is we do a cursory risk assessment and find out what issues are really at hand. There really is no magic bullet as far as where security or medicine or any other field. So we try to, I call it right-sizing the job. Let's find out what exposure they have, what threats they've had, what problems and issues they had. And then we choose from a menu of 26 different disciplines, albeit physical or electronic or procedural or other things like that, to put together a network of resources that fit and right size, again, use the word right, that right size their business. All businesses are different. They have different business entities. We'll edit that. They have different business products that they I'm getting stuck on that one.
Needs that they have,
yes,
correct?
Needs
that makes sense.
Needs they have, but they produce different products. We deal with insurance companies, we deal with schools and universities, commercial and residential real estate. So we really look to understand their business and their corporate culture, which is really important. You have to integrate all of these resources into their corporate culture, so they're there and sort of invisible until they're needed, but perform the job behind the scenes most of the time.
That's a really valid point, is company culture and tradition and what your client needs and what you need to do to make sure they're protected. It all has to blend in together, right? So everybody's comfortable with the solution.
Correct.
So how is AI playing a role in security today, and how has it enhanced what's available to companies?
Technology over the years has evolved immensely in the security industry, as well as it has in other industries. There's an organization that we belong to called the American Society of Industrial Security, ASIS, and ASIS holds a event here at the Javits Center every year, usually in September, but they do a global one called Global Security Exchange. This year it's in Orlando, and I believe it's also in September. And over the years, I've been a member since, I think, 1996, and over the years, technology has grown exponentially, taking up more and more and more space. On artificial intelligence is the latest thing, where it's being introduced and more like into robotics and managing certain systems electronically rather than manually.
That makes a lot of sense, especially video, everything you're doing technology-wise, that it can be done remotely as well, it
Correct.
sounds like. So tell me a little bit about the employees that you're hiring. What are their typical backgrounds? What's their area of expertise?
We hire a lot of former law enforcement officers from law enforcement, from corrections, and we look to hire a lot of ex-military people. We like to give them opportunities. And then there are professional security guards, people who make actually careers out of being in the security business. And for those people, as well as the others, we look to give them some career paths so there's advancement. We have people that started with us as regular security guards, and now they're managing sites and multiple sites. There's a lot of training involved. The state requires certain hours of training. We do training in-house. Our training platform was put together by the former chief of police of the Pleasantville Police Department, Dr. Anthony Charlitti, who's now a adjunct professor of criminal justice. So Tony worked for us for a bit and put together all of our training programs, those 26 disciplines that I talked about, and we've expanded on that. There are new things that have been added over the years, and more risk locations like crisis prevention intervention, CPI, verbal de-escalation techniques to deal with some of the things that are going on in today's culture.
So, that brings another question in terms of training. What if a company comes to you and says, I might not need full-time regular security, but can you train my employees to know what to do if there's a crisis at work? How, things like that. I would think those training sessions are valuable for every business, whether you have 2 employees or 2,000. Do you do individual training sessions for people?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
We do a lot of active shooter training, both in schools and in small businesses who don't have it in their budget to hire a full security staff. So we'll train receptionists to know what to look out for and how to react. After that, we'll do active shooter training in schools, shelter in place, and other disciplines which are applicable. And again, in the different settings, it may be a little different, but it's mostly all the same training.
It sounds like it's well worth every single business to go through that training session.
Absolutely. You never know. I mean, hopefully it doesn't, but you never know that it might.
Absolutely. How has cybersecurity evolved in terms of the work you do? Do you do any type of cybersecurity work, or what? How does that play a role?
We do not do cybersecurity. We have a few strategic partners where we will integrate into that. When we do a risk assessment, we will make it known to the client or prospective client that we have strategic partners that we subcontract it to, and they're the professionals at that, because that is a very, very highly technical field and a little above my pay grade right now.
Well, frankly, we really believe in the power of referral partners. And so that's terrific. When you have an industry that's not exactly yours, but closely aligned, and you can refer each other when there are certain areas of expertise you don't have, but they do, and vice versa, that's a huge way to grow your business. And that's one of the things I find to be most impactful when I hear a business and they're joining and they're talking about who their referral partners are. That's huge.
Right.
So it sounds like you're doing that a lot as well.
Yeah, and that actually concept came to me when I was with Sotheby's. As we grew globally, I needed to hire people in North America, Asia, Europe, and I made a lot of very good connections with law enforcement. And it was very successful. And, it's good to hire the right people for the right job. And again, I like to use that term, right-sizing the job.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk a little bit. You've touched upon it briefly. What are some of the industries that you are working with a lot on a regular basis, or how has that evolved over the years?
Yeah, most recently, commercial real estate has been pretty static, but there's been a significant increase in residential real estate, gated communities. More and more gated communities are looking to secure their facilities and their properties. Schools and universities have been on significant rise over the past 5 years. In some schools, depending upon the location, it's a pretty standard security package. But if you get into some other more complicated areas, the use of magnetometers and wands and bag checks and door integrity, penetration testing, things like that, where a little bit more layers are required to ensure that we have integrity within the facility.
That makes a lot of sense, and it sort of dovetails into my next question is, from a personal standpoint, the average person, what can we do to make sure that our home is protected as possible, and ourselves as we're out and about living our lives? What are some things we can do just for ourselves personally to stay as safe as we can stay?
Well, I think you have to be cognizant of your surroundings at all times without being paranoid, if you will. But most crimes are crimes of opportunity. They will be the home at home. It'll be the house that gets burglarized will be the home with no alarm, no dog, and the door's unlocked. So you really have to be diligent and go through certain disciplines in your everyday life, and that's really a personal choice on how involved or how in depth you want to get with that. It's a personal choice, but I think you just be diligent and be cognizant, and just that everybody watches the news in the morning and see what goes on in the world every day. And I always tell people, don't think that it couldn't happen to you, because it might. God forbid, it just might. So lock your car, lock your doors, be cognizant of being around you. You hear every day about carjackings, things like that. That's been a significant uptick in crime these days.
And what's the best way to avoid that? Locking our cars when we're not in our cars, locking them when we're driving. What do you recommend to avoid that? Because that's a good point. Most people are using cars on a daily basis.
Yeah, most people use their cars. Keep your car locked. If someone comes up to you, you have to be aware of the pranksters and tricksters. Coming up and pretending to be in need of something, and before you know it, they're in your car. So just it's nice to be helpful to people, and you want to help people, but you also have to be cognizant and protect yourselves.
That's a really good point, that little warning light in the back of your mind, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I always carry my cell phone everywhere. I don't think any of us goes very far without that nowadays. But these are really good points to remember. And even leaving your lights on when you're out of the house at night, right? It gives the illusion that somebody's home. Little things like that, I think, are significant.
Absolutely. There's so many smart devices these days. You can control your home. You can control the heat, the lights, the air, your pool, whatever it is. And, again, it comes down to being a personal choice and trying to be as cognizant as you possibly can. And it's up to the person themselves how they want to apply that to their day-to-day life.
So awareness is key, just
Absolutely.
that reminder to be aware.
Absolutely.
So tell us, as a successful business owner who's really grown your business, you've grown your business from the ground up, what are some tips you would give to someone in any industry who's thinking about starting their own business? What are some things that you felt like really worked well, and also some things maybe you wouldn't do again?
Well, it's a lot of hard work starting a business, I can tell you that. Tips, I would say, be honest, be fair, be direct. Don't hesitate to give bad news, and it's really being that person that someone can trust.
I love that. Absolutely. What about anything you would do differently? I think we all look back. 2020 is perfect vision, as they say. Anything you would do differently as a seasoned business owner now?
No, I think that some of the mistakes you make are a learning experience. I don't regret really any of them. Of course, I've made mistakes just like any other person, albeit in personally or professionally. But don't make the same mistake twice.
That's good advice for all of us, right? Every experience is definitely a learning experience. Mm-hmm. So do you have any thoughts on the horizon? What are you thinking about next? Or what do you think, if you were to look into a crystal ball, that you see happening on the security landscape? Any changes or anything that you think we're going to see evolve in the next year or two?
Yeah, over the years, in recent past, the private sector has worked more closely with law enforcement at the local and state and even federal level. I think that, as you said before, technology is playing a bigger role in every business, security business as well. Robotics is very, very on the rise with doing patrols in malls or in warehouses.
Ooh, interesting.
We've just instituted on a learning facility that we are contracted to. It's spread out so far. We're using drones to cover, certain areas rather than having all these patrols going in different directions. And it's managed by a security operations center, a SOC, where we can get the images, and should something occur, then we'll dispatch either one of our own people or the police or fire or whatever, or emergency service, whatever's needed.
Wow. I hadn't thought about, the drone capabilities and security, but that makes a lot of sense because they can see things that, somebody walking the grounds or in a car or even on a bike can't see. That's got to be massive. Is that becoming more and more commonplace now to see drones at events? Because like you said, they can catch something just as it's happening, or maybe they can see something that looks like it's going to happen, and then you've got the police or the fire department there much quicker. I think that's got to be huge.
I think it will be. It's been sort of a blank budget line item for most organizations, right? But when we introduce these different disciplines that we do, albeit physical, electronic, we try and present a good return on investment and show how that application will be more effective and possibly save some money at the same time.
And that's got to be great for crowds, right? If you're overseeing security for a really big event or something, I'm making this up, in the middle of New York City, where again it's hard to get people boots on the ground in a big crowd of 10 or 5,000 people, the drones can, I'm assuming, cover a lot of area, correct?
They do. We recently just completed a security detail for Fox Sports up at the Belmont in Saratoga. And we provided them all the physical security for Fox and worked with the NYRA people. And I can't go into detail, but I know some of the law enforcement people that were involved, and the amount of technology that was there was pretty impressive from the security standpoint at all different levels of law enforcement.
I can only imagine. We were saying earlier, right? The bigger the event and the more seamless that it unfolds, the more work that goes into it, for sure.
There is a lot that goes into it. I was very impressed with the amount of equipment and people that it takes to run an event like that behind the scenes.
So any other events, I know you can't share necessarily your clients or anything specific about that, but any other big events that you're working on that you're excited about, or even in general, you can talk about a little bit?
Yeah, we have a lot of prospective new clients that we're working with in the tri-state area. One of our clients has recently expanded to Florida and Boston. We are looking to expand on them somewhat more nationally, our business. And, it's a question of necessity. We're getting more and more traction. We've recently hired 2 new marketing and salespeople through their marketing efforts. We've gotten a lot more traction in our website and our social media aspects, and it's becoming very, very effective. And I think that, just the nature of the way society is going, the private sector is going to play and will always play a greater role in assisting law enforcement and businesses and people.
That's such a good point, that as a private citizen, wherever you are, if you what is that saying? If you see something, say something,
Correct.
Right? That's really key as well in providing security, just in general, just doing the right thing. You're at something and something doesn't feel right or something doesn't look right, say something to somebody.
Correct.
Well, this has been an incredible conversation, and I feel like we've learned a lot about what's going on in the security world, both professionally and from a personal standpoint. Any parting wisdom or advice you'd like to share?
Call us if you need.
I love it. Absolutely.
If you need any security advice, we have we've assembled a very good team of professionals, and we have a number of different vertical markets that we support. I think I mentioned a few before. We look to help anyone who is in need of their service, and hopefully make their employment and their personal experience at work a much better place and safer.
And what I love that you said, which is so true, I mean, whether it's a big or a small event, but you also work with company culture because every company has, kind of a different way that they want to do things or a different level of assistance they need. And that's something you really focus on very carefully.
Correct. And going back to one thing that you said, what advice would I give to a business leadership? It starts from the head. The corporate culture and the corporate culture of our industry, the security industry, really starts at leadership.
I love that, and you're absolutely right because it does trickle down. Thank you again for sharing your insight and your advice and your expertise. For those of you listening in, the BCW is proud to say we are the heartbeat of the Westchester business community. Membership offers an array of resources, 100 plus events and programs a year, an ambassador mentoring program, a full-time social media strategist, and proven techniques for enhancing the visibility of your company to the Westchester business community. We believe in relationship building. For more information about membership or to join, please go to www.thebcw.org. Thank you for listening.